Hey guys, what's up? Okay, another video out. Funny thing is, I actually had some recordings that I did before this, and I was just going to put the recordings up, those voice recordings, because this camera was not working. And to be honest, it's still kind of but I got it working afterwards, and so I decided to put this out first. And I might put the recordings out afterwards, or I might just do a video version of it. In fact, this is a video version of one of those recordings, so here we go. I noticed while catching up on some shit on YouTube that there's a little bit of a stir about something that happened in some bullshit show called The Talk, which is just a copy of The View, which means that that's yet another show that I'm not even going to bother to watch if I was inclined to watch TV in the first place. The only reason why I watch TV is to check out Netflix and to watch Doctor Who and Sherlock, okay? Or in some anime. I'm going off topic. Basically, if you guys haven't heard about this already, people are already making a big deal about this. Apparently, a guy wanted to divorce his wife, and the wife got pissed off, and so she chopped his penis off while he was sleeping. And let's see, why am I forgetting all of a sudden? She chopped his penis off while he was sleeping. There's nothing on there about him, you know, doing anything to her or abusing her anyway. She just was pissed off at him for wanting a divorce and chopped the shit off. And the women on The Talk, including the women in the audience, were laughing at this. They thought it was funny. They were like, oh, he deserves it, he deserves it, when all he wanted was a divorce. And one of the women timidly brought up the subject of, isn't this kind of sexist? I mean, we wouldn't be making fun of this if this was a guy chopping off a woman's boob or sewing her vagina shut for doing something he didn't like. But the women were pretty dismissive about it, and one in particular was like, nah, it's funny, it's fucking funny, you know, imagine it flopping around in the garbage disposal, because she threw it into the garbage disposal. Naturally, a lot of men were upset about this, and there was a big deal being said about this. You know, some feminists, some I talked to about it, are saying, like, you know, please, this is not a big deal. I mean, we can't speak for just some random idiots. This is not really reflective on feminism at all. And meanwhile, you have guys like The Amazing Atheist saying shit like, this is why I don't take feminism seriously. And then you have people like, you know, the MRA people jumping all over this, and I don't even want to talk about that shit. I got my own views on this, and I again have to state that what I am saying is not, look, I don't agree with the MRA type idiots. I don't agree with people who say that feminism you can't take that seriously. You know, I happen to like the basic ideal of feminism. Equal rights for women. What the fuck is the big deal about that? I really don't understand why people have to go up in arms. But I have to say this, and please understand why I'm saying it, and I'm going to try to explain, okay? Look, any feminists watching this, those who identify themselves with that ideal, okay? When some dude, like The Amazing Atheist, and I have to use his name because this is important, when someone like The Amazing Atheist sees an event like this, and then goes, this is why I don't take feminism seriously, you should cringe. That is not something that you can just blow off. And the reason why you can't blow that off is because you guys are under the gun. I'll explain. First, let me just touch on the reason why it's important that, you know, The Amazing Atheist says something like that is, imagine if the women on The Talk were, instead of talking about some woman chopping off some dude's dick off and nobody caring, imagine instead they were talking about how a bunch of women finally completely brought equal rights to the company they worked in. You no longer had to worry about the glass ceiling. You no longer had to worry about women getting less paid than men. There was like a major breakthrough in that company. You got female CEOs earning the same amount as their male counterparts, and the male counterparts have no problem listening to what the females have to say. And you got male secretaries as well as female secretaries. and you got, like people just filling all types of roles in the company, not really caring about your gender. They just simply care about your skills, and you get paid accordingly, and they go with your work, and it's just this great open place to work. Imagine if the women were talking about something like that, and then the women in the audience are like, yeah! And then the Amazing Atheist said, this is why I don't take feminism seriously. See how all of a sudden it makes him look like the jackass? Because this was a very positive thing that freaking happened, and it would be a great score for feminism. So if he said something like that then, you could just write him off as somebody who's just like, he doesn't want equal rights, he's just another male chauvinist, fuck him. And yeah, to be honest, that's the type of image that it seems these days male atheists are getting slapped with, acting like assholes towards women. But that's another topic. But anyway, let's go back to reality. He said that about a woman chopping a dude's dick off and the women thinking that there was nothing wrong with that. Now, that's not good. Because, number one, he's got a point when he complains about the fact that there is a bit of inequality here. He doesn't have a point when he says that feminism shouldn't be taken seriously. But he does have a point when he's saying that there's a double standard here, which there is. Which is endemic of our culture, by the way, which is why this is such an uphill battle. But what makes things worse is that if there are any guys who are either on the fence or are jerks, they'll look at this and go, yeah, he's right. This is his way. Feminism should be taken seriously. And they do the same lumping up of feminism and women's rights that they always fucking do, and demonizes the whole ideal, despite the fact that, there's a whole lot of garbage that they tie to feminism that has nothing to do with feminism. This is why women should cringe when they see shit like this happening. And the reason why isn't because feminists have to be each other's keepers, like the minute one woman falls out of line, a whole bunch of other women should all of a sudden scoop her up in a yoke and, just take her away. No, the reason is simply this. You're under the gun. And when you're under the gun, you have to watch every step you make. I know, it sucks. It sucks. It isn't fair. It really shouldn't be demanded of you. And many people have argued the case that really what they say shouldn't matter. Yeah, it shouldn't matter what a bunch of idiot women happen to say or do, or whatever double standards they're doing. It shouldn't matter to you as a feminist. Unfortunately, we're not living in a perfect world, and it does. It's the same way that when I'm looking, like if I'm watching the news and some black guy happens to be doing something that is just incredibly embarrassing, I usually like, shit, that didn't do me any favors. Because I'm under the gun as a black guy. Sure, I'm not as under the gun as I was, as black people were years ago, but there's still this kind of negative stereotype that I have to deal with because I happen to have extra melanin in my skin. There are still going to be people looking at me and expecting a certain thing from me. And then when other idiots who have similar features as me do those idiotic things, it already reinforces in their bigoted minds that, yeah, see, that's all it's going to amount to. And in the minds of big people bigoted towards women, when they see other women acting in a way that they think is unfair, they're going to lump you up in that. And no matter how much you're going to want to shake that off, and rightfully so, you're going to get hit with it. It's because of the whole unfairness of how everything's stacked up against us, okay? We're under the gun. What I mean by us is anybody who basically wants to equalize anything. You know that right now, many groups are living under some type of unfair status. If you are some type of racial minority, or if you're a woman, or if you're homosexual, or if you're an immigrant, well, Hispanic immigrant. I know that immigrants from Europe don't get the same shit. If you happen to be under some type of group that's not being treated fairly, when you start asking for equal rights, you're automatically going to be put under the gun because you're automatically seen as a troublemaker. Because those who are in privilege think everything's A-okay. Even if they aren't necessarily jackasses themselves, they are still accepting a certain amount of privilege, and whether they realize it or not, they are subconsciously enjoying it. And when somebody comes in and claims their piece of the pie, they are feeling something being taken away from them, and no one likes that. That's what you're fighting. Even when you're right, women are right to want equal pay and be treated equally. But in order for that to happen, some power that men in society have, they have to give up for the sake of equality. How many people are willing to give up power? Willingly. That's why you're under the gun. Like, oh, fuck no. I may have more potato chips than I need, but these are still my potato chips. You can't even eat them. They're my potato chips. That's what you're going against. Think about the kid who was an only child. He had his own room, his own toys. He's happy. Then he finds out that his parents are having a kid. And now he's got to share the room. They got a bunk bed and shit. He's mad. Why? Because he was under a set of privilege. I was getting all the attention. I had my own room. Now I got to share it with this motherfucker. They're not happy. Well, this is exactly what's going on. Does it make it right? No. Of course not. Feminists deserve to fight for and get equal rights. Period. Just fair society we're supposed to be living in, remember? Same thing with blacks wanting to get, equal rights in terms of, race and all that. And same thing with homosexuals having to have the same rights as heterosexuals, and so on and so forth. All these groups have a point. But they're also troublemakers. And with those who are already enjoying the fruits of an already biased system, they don't like it when the troublemakers come in and start saying, hey, I want a piece of that candy too. And therefore, because you're under the gun, any fucking thing that's going to be used against you will. It's just the nature of the beast. I know it's unfair. I do. No, really, I do. I know it's unfair. But that's what's going to happen. I mean, I'm saying this as a male, okay? I know how the odds are stacked up against you. I do. And I'm saying this as somebody who's in a society where, yeah, since I'm male, I have a certain amount of privilege that a lot of women don't have. I'll give it, hey, look, when it's late at night and I happen to be walking down a certain street, I mean, unless it's a really, really bad freaking neighborhood, I'm not really going to be looking around my corner like, oh shit, what, if a couple of guys happen to look my way. That's a privilege I enjoy. I don't really have to worry about all of a sudden being shoved in an alley and getting raped or something. Some women have to deal with that. And worse, then have to try to prove that they were raped afterwards. Did you consent? If you even show a slightest cast of doubt on that, you're fucked in court. That ain't right. So I understand there's a disparity here, and you guys deserve to have that addressed. Definitely. But you're up against cultural biases. You're up against a certain structure that was already set up and people have been enjoying for years. And they are going to look at any possible thing they can do to get you to stop trying to take power away from them. And therefore, when shit like what happened in the talk happened, it doesn't help. Especially when you refuse to address it. When you're just like, that has nothing to do with me. It just adds more fuel to the fire for, the assholes who want to say, see, this just goes to show they want an unequal system. And you don't. That's what they're going to say, and that's what they're going to paint it as. And because they, let's face it, right now, they have all the advantage. The culture is set up to go in their favor. So, since you're under the gun, it's going to make you in an even worse position than you're already in. I'm hoping this is making some sense. It's like that. You have to understand the board game that you're playing. You have to understand how the odds are stacked against you, and if you're going to successfully fight for your cause. You can't just... I mean, you already know that this is an unfair society. And at this point, I'm not just speaking to feminists, I'm speaking to anybody who's fighting for rights. You're already dealing with an unfair system. Why then are you going to act like you're working with a fair system? I mean, you're already trying to change it to a fair system. So when things really start getting unfair, depending on what somebody said to make you look bad, you can't all of a sudden act like you're working under the rules of a fair system. Yes, under a fair system, it would not reflect badly upon feminism that the women happen to have said what they said. Fortunately, it does. Under bullshit, unfair rules. And you have to take that into account. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that, there should be a whole bunch of women with torches and pitchforks going down to the talk and demanding an apology? No. Does this mean that there has to be a bunch of women going in and writing a big nasty letter saying, you didn't make us look good? No. But what has to be addressed, and this is a suggestion, I don't know if it's going to help, you can't be each other's keeper. Really. I mean, well, ideally, and now we're going into the whole ideal world again, ideally we all should be each other's keeper because humanity is supposed to look out for itself. But, with the way politics and things are right now, yeah, you can't really be each other's keeper. Just because one person's acting like an asshole, it should not really reflect on you. But because your enemies are going to try to use that against you, the best counter you can do to that is show that you're really trying to look for equality, period. That means not just trying to educate men on the subject and trying to get them to see the error of their ways, but you also need to do the same thing with women. You shouldn't just be empowering women with self-identity and, you know, trying to bring their pride up and making them realize, no, I should not be treated like this. That's part of it. But you should also be giving them the tools to make sure that when, I'm not saying if, when they set things right, they're going to make it a fair world. You have to show that that's what you're really going for, a fair world for everybody. I've heard it argued that certain people say that, nah, I think this is the argument I'm dealing with. I'm only dealing with gay rights. Other people's rights, that goes on to them. Oh, no. Don't ever fucking think that. What you're really fighting for is for human rights, period. You're human. You deserve rights as a human. You deserve to get those rights. If you brush off another segment of society and just say, oh, that's their fight, you're fucking yourself up, whether you realize it or not. You don't necessarily have to show up at their rallies or their meetings, but you should at least understand, at least show that you support it in some small way. You don't have to go out their way. Like I've noticed that feminists every now and then get a charge that they don't really care about the plight of minorities. You don't have to go to every single last minority freaking rally. You really don't have to all of a sudden show up at a freaking Al Sharpton protest. But what you should do is at least show in some way that, yeah, we're for that. It's equal rights. We want equal rights just like everybody else should have equal rights. And that's it. As long as that's part of your rhetoric, you have something to counter the idiots that try to say that, you know, you're trying to go for a more unfair system. I'm pretty sure there should be more than that, but that's all I got right now. Anyway, enough of that. Catch you guys later.